So good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this session. I hope you're enjoying this online version of the conference. I know I certainly am. My name is Matthew Giannazzini, and I work for ADA, which is a Luxembourg-based NGO that focuses on financial inclusion. Before September of this year, I headed up the TA unit for financial institutions within ADA, and we focus primarily on capacity building and product diversification services for financial institutions. And since September, I'm no longer managing the team. I'm now coordinating a new project, which is called the Smallholder Safety Net Upscaling Program, which, if you want to know more about, there's a presentation tomorrow at 3 o'clock that you can join. But that's enough about me. Let's get down to the session. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to present you a case study of one of the projects that was managed within the team. And as the title suggests, it was aimed at linking insurance with remittances to improve the resilience of migrants. The session will be divided into 3 parts. So I'll start off by presenting the kind of global context, giving you some key figures and explaining why remittances really represents an enormous opportunity. I'll also go over some of the models that exist. Then we'll go into the specific case study, a project that was launched in Dubai. I'll try and show you a video, but I'm not sure whether we'll have time. And then lastly, we can have a discussion, go over some of the key takeaways and lessons from our experience. So let's dive straight in and look at the global context of migrants and give you a couple of kind of key data points. So internationally, there are in 2019 272 million migrants, representing about 3.5% of the world's population. You can see about 52% are male, 74% are in the working age. The majority of these migrants come from India, Mexico, and China. These are large countries, so it's understandable that they have large migrant populations. And then in terms of the amounts being sent, so in 2018, $689 billion was sent in remittances. The US being the largest sending country, followed by the Gulf countries not far behind. This amount is projected to decline in 2020 by about 20%, so due to the pandemic. There are 2 quite staggering facts that I think is important to mention here, because it kind of confirms the importance of remittances and its role in economic development in both the host and the home countries, but also its role in social, political, and technological change. So the first one is, it's estimated that 1 in 9 people globally are supported by funds sent home by migrants. So 1 in 9 people depend on these funds to pay for their bills, their school fees, their healthcare, their food, and their clothes. That's quite a staggering amount. The second point is the amount of $700 billion being sent in 2018 was 3 times the amount of international aid spent globally. Therefore, the importance of remittances is undeniable, and it represents a colossal kind of opportunity to leverage these funds, maybe leverage them better, and essentially on a very tiny scale. That's what we tried to do in this project that I'll present. So what is all this linking insurance with remittances? Well, essentially it comes down to insurance companies or insurance providers using remittances as a distributor. Insurance companies use a whole array of different distribution channels, such as banks, MFIs, mobile network operators, shops. So MTOs make a kind of a logical distribution partner for insurance providers. So the idea is simple, and there are many reasons why it makes sense. As we saw on the previous slide, there are large numbers of migrants sending an enormous amount of money. There exists already a financial transaction that can be leveraged on. So the migrant who is already sending money, there's a transaction there that could be leveraged on to buy insurance. From the migrant side, there's a need to improve their risk management capabilities, and insurance can do that in some respect. And then the last point is from the incentive side of both organizations. So from the insurance as well as the MTO, the money transfer organization, there are major incentives for them to collaborate together, whether it's increasing their customer base, reaching new clients, improving their value proposition to their clients, or just having a competitive advantage over their competitors. So these are all, points that can be raised to convince these companies to collaborate and to try and put something into place. So the reasons exist, and they're pretty strong. But how does it work? There are a number of models that exist that I've mentioned here. The 4 models. I won't go into too much detail. If you want to know more, I would suggest that you read Barbara Magnoni's Risk Across Borders publication. And it goes over some of the models. But basically, it comes down to two questions: whose risks are being covered? So is it the migrants' risks that we're covering, or is it the families back home that we're covering? And then the second question is in whose jurisdiction is the underwriter? So where is the insurance company located? And this has massive implications on the implementation of a project, especially from the regulatory side of things. So let's jump in and have a look at the project itself. So in 2006, ADA, we partnered with a fintech called Democrance. They're a startup IT company that specializes in microinsurance based in Dubai. And with them, we responded to a call for proposals from IFAD, so the International Fund for Agricultural Development. The objective of the project was to work with the migrant population in the United Arab Emirates, specifically targeting the Indian and Filipino workers to improve their risk coping mechanisms by providing them with the opportunity to access insurance products that have been specifically designed for their needs when remitting funds back home. Essentially, the idea was to leverage on the already established financial transaction of a remittance and offer insurance as an option for them to buy. The project was launched in October 2017 and has only recently come to an end for us at the end of 2020. But Democrance is continuing with the project. So I just highlighted the main stages of the project. These are kind of the classic steps of any pilot project. Know your market, identify your partners, design your products and business model, launch the pilot, and then probably most importantly, try and learn from all the mistakes that you made along the way. So the first off is, who are we targeting? The UAE, so the United Arab Emirates, is pretty unique. It has the 6th largest migrant population with over 8.5 million migrants. And staggeringly, that represents 88% of the country's population. So, which essentially means that 9 in 10 people in the UAE are migrants. So who are our customers, our targeted customers? In order to find out, we launched a market study that looked to understand the migrants, both the Filipinos and the Indians. We looked at their concerns, their risks, their insurance needs, and their understandings. Do they understand insurance? Their remittance habits, how often and how much do they remit? And then their willingness to use technology such as mobile phones. We had over 700 respondents and conducted 8 focus studies. And what we found wasn't really surprising, but it just confirmed that there was a need for services that improved their risk management capabilities and reduced their worries. That's something that came up quite a lot in the study, was the concerns that these migrants feel, especially about having to send money home. You must understand that these migrants are very often the main earner in the family, and they have enormous pressure on them to provide for their whole family. And their main concerns really relates to this pressure and what would happen to them if they were incapacitated and not able to send that money home. The risks that we identified were similar risks for both groups. Accident, death, and health were the main concerns. In terms of insurance understanding, we found Filipinos were a little bit more aware of insurance and its benefits. I think that comes down to how developed the insurance and microinsurance industry is in the Philippines. But in terms of the key takeaways, so with these migrants, is that they were relatively young, so 25 to 45. They were unskilled. They remit on average about 235 euros a month. They do receive mandatory health insurance, but that is rather limited, as hospitals are far away, and it would essentially mean that they would lose a day's work. And lastly, that they're quite tech savvy. So that's something that was very beneficial for us, as tech was one of the main components of the project that we were putting in place. So now that we know our clients, we needed to identify our partners. And I have to be honest, this was a much more difficult process and took much longer than we first thought. We already had Democrance on the ground, but we needed to identify an insurance company. And I have to say, we were incredibly lucky to have got on board with AXA, as they have an emerging customer department that has a very social outlook that not many international large insurance companies have. Now, in terms of the remittance infrastructure, as you can imagine, the remittance industry in the UAE is very well developed and offers migrant workers extensive options for sending money. Now, even though it's very developed, most of the migrants in the UAE are not formally kind of included in the financial service space. Very often they don't even have accounts because there's minimum balance requirements, and the transactions to send remittances, send them home, is very often cash transactions. So in terms of our distribution channels, so the 2 partners that we managed to identify were Rise and Hello Pesa. Now, let's go for Rise. It's a digital financial service platform. It's a fintech that's based in the UAE and operates what's a mobile banking platform for Filipino maids. They're not directly a money transfer operator, but they facilitate financial inclusion for migrants with bank accounts, credit cards, links to remittances and insurance. What's interesting with this partner is that they're incredibly close to their customers, and they know them extremely well. Most of their communication is done via Facebook, which is probably just as active, if not active, than a teenager's Instagram account, for example. Hello Pesa, on the other hand, is a money transfer operator. They're based in South Africa, and they only launched their activities in the UAE and Asia in 2019. They have a strategy to expand into Asia, and so we managed to partner with them in the UAE. The next slide illustrates the model a little bit better. But I think what I'd like to just say here is just to mention one of the lessons that we learned when we were identifying distribution partners, or at least the experience that we had. One of the points is smaller financial intermediaries, like for example, Rise or any other fintech startup, are much more willing to experiment new products and services. They're much more flexible, they're more reactive and less constrained than much larger organizations. They tend also to be very much closer to their client base. So they know their clients much better. They can engage in them in a more active and personal way. And this is really essential when trying to offer new services or new products that need to relate to them in a certain way. The downside of working with these types of organizations is really the outreach. They don't have the customer base. And when you're talking about insurance, outreach and scale is fundamental. So there's a certain balancing act that you need to make whether you can move forward with that. Initially, before we started working with Rise and Hello Pesa, we spent a year working with probably the largest MTO in the UAE. We struggled with every step, but we did move forward until all of a sudden they pulled out, and we were basically left with nothing after a year's work, apart from a letter of intent that had showed that was of no value. Therefore, for us, like starting a pilot with several smaller organizations and building that business case that way really makes better sense than going for the big players. Now that we know our customers, we know our partners, let's have a look at the products quickly. Now, the products, there's really no revolution here, it must be said. The products are simple, they're affordable, accessible and relevant, like any microinsurance product needs to be. And it was decided to launch these products with a staggered approach. So the first product was what we call the premium product. So this is a product that was free for the migrants. It was a simple product that covered accidental death and disability and was 100% subsidized by the distribution channels, so by Rise and Hello Pesa. Then the next stage was to launch what we call the upsell product. So the upsell product was a paying product, and this kind of built on the freemium model and added additional coverage, as well as covering medical expenses, repatriation, and eventually teleconsultation service. And then the last product, which we call the cross-sell product, was a product that we wanted to develop for the families back home. This is still in development, and we weren't able to launch this product before the project came to an end. So now that we know our products, how's it all going to fit together? And the diagram below kind of tries to illustrate how it all fits together by illustrating the data flows between the different stakeholders. And as you can see, the IT platform is really at the center of it all. And this is the platform that was developed by Democrance. And it allows every stakeholder to be part of the equation. It speaks to the MIS of the distributor by processing and reviewing customer data. It speaks to the customers through subscriptions, premium payments, and claims. And also is able to send SMS campaigns and marketing marketing material. And then it also speaks to the beneficiaries as well by providing them with claims and policy documentation. And then down below, it has access to the insurance company, and in this case, AXA. So the platform really centralizes and processes the information, and then links it all with the insurance company. Not only does this process, efficient, and it speeds up all processes, whether that's registration, payments, or claims. It also allows the insurance company to work with multiple distributors without having this high cost of connecting with each of the distributor. So really, the role of Democrance is to aggregate these distributors and facilitate access to the insurance products. From the customer side point of view, the process is really seamless. Let's say I'm a customer for Hello Pesa. Once they send money, I receive a text message say you can click here to receive your free insurance. I enter some basic data about myself and the beneficiary, and then I'd receive an SMS confirmation confirming my policy and information on how to claim. And the same would go for the beneficiary. So all that seems pretty simple in retrospect. And freemium products are relatively easy to get traction, but it's that transition from free to paying which is complicated. We know from experience with mobile network operators, some mobile phones who've been testing freemium models for a while. They've very often had huge challenges to make that transition from a freemium to a paying model. And another aspect of kind of risk with a freemium model is the awareness, and whether the customers are really aware of the product and understand its value. And that's where communication comes into play. I realize I'm kind of running out of time, so I'm going to jump on the communication. But basically, in terms of the communication, what I want to say is it's an incredibly important step, and is not one that can be be overlooked. You can have the perfect product, you can have the perfect processes, but if you don't have your marketing right, the product can be dead in the water. So this is the results of the project from Hello Pesa and Rise. So over the course of just a year, actually, just over a year, we insured over 13,000 migrants. Hello Pesa insured 12, and Rise just over 1,000. So if we look at Hello Pesa first, they didn't decide to launch a paying product, so they stuck only to the freemium model. Again, this comes from their strategy, which their strategy is really to increase their market share, and differentiate themselves from their competitors. So you can see how initially there was a large take up, and it slowly decreased a little. I'm pretty sure COVID had some reasons for that decrease, but on average they had about 1,400 subscribers per month. Rise, on the other hand, they did launch paying products and discontinued the freemium, as you can see. And as you can see, the numbers are very much smaller and not as positive. Initially, there was a great conversion rate from freemium to paying in April and May, but then from June onwards, things totally dropped. And this is really kind of some of the reasons why I include the pandemic, and also maybe the marketing wasn't marketing and communication campaigns weren't as present. I was going to show you a video, but I don't think I've got time. We've got 5 minutes left. I just wanted to quickly go over some of the lessons learned. So I mean, from a regulatory point of view, it took a lot of time. Things took a lot of time. Licenses took a lot of time. Probably the main regulatory issue that we had was with the product for the families back home. We just found it very difficult to find solutions whereby you could promote one product. You could promote a product in two jurisdictions, because very often regulatory frameworks are very protectionist, so they don't allow the promotion of products whose risk taker is in another jurisdiction to be promoted in theirs. From the distribution channels, I think, you know, the lesson that we learned was, you know, going with smaller, testing the water with smaller distribution channels, trying to prove the business case can work, and then move on to the bigger players. I mean, the technology platform of Democrance and the other ones that are similar are really a kind of game changer in this, because they allow insurance companies to work with a whole array of different distribution channels, which in the past wasn't really the case. In terms of the business model, again, this is a difficult one, because we're talking about very small premiums, and we're talking about smaller outreach. So the business case requires a delicate balance between, you know, incentives and revenues, and every stakeholder needs to be aware of the situation. In terms of insurance awareness, again, insurance awareness is not a one-off initiative. It needs to be a continual. It needs to be continual throughout the life of an insurance product. And you can see from the data of especially with Rise, how once you stop communicating on a product, the take up quickly goes down. And then lastly, in terms of COVID, you know, the project was impacted by the crisis. These organizations were impacted because they do go and see their clients, especially Rise, who are very close to their clients. They couldn't do any of the educational aspects of the project, and that kind of decreased the customer value. It also illustrated the importance of social media and online activities, which was taken on board by Rise enormously, and it was interesting to see how they moved a lot of their activities to their Facebook platform, and organized events there. So that's I've taken up way too much time. I'm not sure I've left enough time for questions, but that's it for me. If you do have any questions, please don't hesitate to put up your hand, or just can you put up your hand, or do you open your mic and ask questions? So I've got a question here from Dominic. How are remittances defined? I don't have an exact definition of remittances, but remittances is funds sent. It doesn't have to be transferred to the south. Remittances can be transferred from countries within Africa. Actually, a much larger portion of remittances is within the African continent than it is from Europe down to Africa. So it's money being transferred across borders. Thanks, Dominic. So I've got a question from Alexa. When they send remittances, do they split the payment so that part of the payment goes to the family and part goes for the insurance product, or how they do it? Indeed, that's basically how they do it. The migrant would go to the money transfer branch, they would remit, let's say, $200, and then of that $200, $1 would be taken out to pay for the premium of the product. That's if the product was the paying product. For the freemium product, they would just get an SMS afterwards saying they can register to the free insurance. Okay, so I'm going to close this session now, as I think I'm being told that it's over. So I'd like to thank you for your participation, and if you do have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact me. You can go to the IFAD website and find my find my email. But otherwise, I wish you a good evening, and thanks again for joining. Cheers.